Welcome to the Football Show, sponsored by Indigo Communications. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Hugh Macdonald are here with me on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Hopefully you can hit that subscribe button and join us Monday to Friday, 4 o'clock for, of course, unmatched, unbiased and, of course, absolutely free football content. We've got lots of chat on what's happening domestically and internationally as well. Let's not forget, it is the countdown to the World Cup, so there's lots to talk about in the company of my two esteemed friends. And if you hit the subscribe button, you can engage on our feed with fellow fans who love their club and their country. And you can also, if you download the app, get all the breaking football stories as well as on the website. Simple as that. So thank you to so many of you who continually just make 4 o'clock the perfect time. But don't worry, if you miss the programme at any point, then you can not only download it on the app, but you can download the podcast or watch it at your leisure on our YouTube channel, because there are so many ways to get involved in our social media to watch the programme. So thanks to Shane Johnson, Paul Baird, Lee Shanley, Tommy Adams, Tommy Lee, Matt as well, and Andy Lothian. There's so many people from so many different areas, New York, Australia, Thailand, you name it, Ruffy. They all want to click on and get a wee taste of Scotland, as well as our home fans as well.
It's fantastic. You know, obviously all these countries that you've read out have all got time differences as well, so it'll be amazing to see what times they're all sitting up listening to it. But they all want a bit of Scottish football.
Yeah.
I think we have to realise that it is quite exciting.
Yeah, and thanks to Billy, who says, good afternoon, guys, from Kilmarnock.
Nice.
Is there a time difference there, Hugh?
Definitely a time difference. Kilmarnock's still in the 19th century, so this is 200 years time difference.
And of course, Billy, don't be offended, he's only kidding. But give us your opinion, because there's lots to talk about. We're going to hear from the Partick Thistle boss today on the programme. He's under a wee bit of pressure. And, well, Ruffy won't give you an opinion on it, but we will for the weekend's game against Arbroath. The quiz, we always like to throw a quiz question out to you. And today's is, which nation has the oldest player at the World Cup in their squad? It's a belter of a question, that one, Hugh, isn't it? Aye. So, which nation has the oldest player in their World Cup squad? We'll give you the answer at the end. If you want to take a wee guess, by all means do so. Thanks very much to Craig Wallace, who says, Peter, on this day in 1965, he's a Kilmarnock fan, he says, Kilmarnock played Real Madrid in the European Cup first round at Rugby Park in front of over 25,000 fans. Do you remember the score?
I don't.
It's a belter of a question, isn't it? It was 2-2. Madrid had the likes of Puskas and Hento.
Yeah, Di Stefano, maybe.
Tommy McLean and Jackie McInally scored. And
Alan McInally's dad.
Yes, I think it is actually. Yeah, Ruffy, good call. At the second leg at the Bernabeu, Craig Wallace doesn't want to talk about that.
Cuffed.
5-1. But
come
still,
on, it's
a 2-2 draw at home, and Real Madrid's good, even if it's 1965.
In 65, Real Madrid would have already won 5 European Cups, maybe 6 by then.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have. Yeah, I think they got one in. I think the only teams Inter Milan started to win 2 back to back.
I think Benfica had won 1, and the rest was all won by Real Madrid.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Would that not have been one of the years that Kilmarnock nearly won the league, our league?
They won the league.
They won the league in 65 on goal difference.
Goal difference. Yeah. Well, goal average to be
goal
precise.
Average. It was a strange situation, wasn't it? Much to the chagrin of Hearts.
Because Hearts were the runners up. These were the days when other teams could compete, you know. Yeah,
long may that come back. Tom Crossan says, I'm originally from Wishaw. I left Scotland in 1989. Always went to Motherwell games in the late 70s, 80s. I came back, obviously, for the final in 91. But I watched Motherwell play on Saturday via Motherwell TV. So it's great how lots of people can still now stay tuned to their favourite teams. Lots of expats. And he says, the gulf between Celtic and Rangers has become so wide in the last 30 years. It doesn't stop me watching, but I wish other teams could get a cash injection to improve the competition. Believe me, Tom, so do we. Let's talk Scotland friendly. Not the World Cup that we'd hoped for. We played against Turkey and we lost in a dismal game, Ruffy.
Yeah, last night we were talking about the team selection and we thought it was a pretty strong side.
Yeah.
And then obviously I turned on my telly and we got battered for 45 minutes. There was nothing to take out of that 45 minutes. They were really, really poor.
Were you surprised by his team selection? Why play Tierney and Robertson and things like that when you've got...
well, everybody's been shouting about, play one here and one there, or don't play one of them and play the other, and so I think he's just trying to make a point. That there is a place for them in there, but on the evidence it didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work last night, and not to say it won't work again. Second half, all you can do is take it. We'll never lost any more goals, and John McGinn scored a really good goal.
It was a good goal, but
it.
Tierney doesn't like playing on that right side.
No, no, and Tierney is... I see Clark's difficulty because it's like international football, especially in Scotland, when you've got a restriction in talent, the power all the time is to play your best players.
Yeah.
Instead of sometimes with the dynamic of playing your best team, which sometimes this day contain your best players, and you've got that very strong left side. I thought he kind of found a way out of it when he played Tierney wide left of a 3, and he played Robertson as a wing back.
Yeah.
I thought that could work, long term. But I've got sympathy with Clark on that one, because it'd be very difficult to keep either of them out of the team.
But we're now in a situation in Scotland, I don't know what happened, Ruffy, but we're delivering left backs and right backs by the dozen now. Calvin Ramsey came on, and boy, I thought he looked out of his depth, Ruffy.
Well, he's only in that.
I know. I'm trying not to be harsh to him. I just thought
he's only a young boy. He's had one game with Liverpool. He's been thrown in at the deep end in a hostile environment. That first thing he had to do down in the corner, and the boy brushed him aside.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been a confidence booster for him at all. So early on in the game. But no, let's not knock them. I give them a chance. I'm all for giving the young boys a chance because they're the future. We keep saying when's our next good centre half, when's our next goalkeeper going to come in, so if there's young boys there and we think they're going to be good for the future, get them in and let them know what they've got to live up to.
Yeah, well, listen, this is a show where we offer an opinion, Ruffy. I mean, I'm just telling you it wasn't a great game for him. No. Doesn't mean to say that Calvin Ramsey will not go on and get 100 caps. Who
knows what you'll get? I mean, he's the well thought of at Liverpool already, so he's made an impression down there. He's obviously a good pedigree, but when sometimes, we all know it's a great cliche levels, but as you rise up the ladder, you find it very, very much tougher. Champions League is I think Champions League is the highest level, but after that, good international level is pretty near behind, and you'll learn from that last night. And he's young enough, and I noticed that as well, Ruffy, how physically immature he was, and that'll come with Liverpool have all the biometrics and everything on them, and what they do with players down there is incredible in terms of testing and that. So they'll see his weaknesses, and I bet he's in the gym already doing his weights,
Yeah.
And Robertson went in there and never got in right away.
No.
He had to hang about for a wee while before he got his chance.
Well, he was in and out a bit. It was Mourinho, who's the left back? It was the Spanish left back was keeping him out of the team, and then he started challenging, and then suddenly bang, the great breakthrough. But Robertson would be the man to ask about what it takes to make it that level, because he's just fitness personified.
Yeah, and of course he's very complimentary. But Gregor says Nathan Patterson was poor for Scotland, but you were salivating all over him. Gregor, try not to rewrite history on every game that we play.
I thought Patterson was good when he came in with Scotland.
I had a few shaky ones as well. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we can only give it game by game. It's as simple as that. Sometimes if a player... Listen, if we're on this programme and a player plays not well and we can't say it, the game's a bogey. That's what I always view. And sometimes we get pelters, sometimes we don't. But that's the joy of it all. We're in Scotland. We know the drill. Here's what Steve Clarke had to say about the game. we probably gave up too many chances in the first half, a lot of them from our own slackness, maybe the mentality of a friendly. It should be mentioned that it is a long trip to get here. We had a long flight. We only had 20 minutes tactical work on the pitch yesterday, which was in front of everybody who wanted to watch it. There were some things we tried on the pitch, organisation and set plays. Some of it worked and some of it didn't work. So we have to go away, analyse what we did, and hopefully be much better next year. Is it a game to beat Steve Clarke over the head? Emphatically no. There was some slack play, the goals were poor to lose, but 2-1 at the end of it. Licker wins, go away, and I think once most Scotland players and those on the periphery and the young players coming through, hopefully a Calvin Ramsey and others, will look at the World Cup, Ruffy, and think, oh, we've got to get to a major tournament.
I was just going to say that's the best thing that I saw out of this game. I saw Robertson getting interviewed, I saw McGinn getting interviewed, Tierney get interviewed. Every one of them that get interviewed are hurting big time that they know this weekend, they're not at the World Cup, and that can only be a good thing because they now realise that this is a pinnacle of their career. They can play with all the clubs they want to, but if they can't get mixing with the big boys, they're really, really sad that they're not there, particularly Robertson. I thought he was nearly in tears in his interview.
Of course, because I mean, that's ambition. Ambition is to, I mean, you look at that Liverpool dressing room over Christmas. I mean, with Robertson and Firmino with only 2 left.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when it gets painful, isn't it?
Oh, that's when you're walking about this huge training ground. I mean, you had it yourself. Did you ever get to a World Cup, Ruffy?
Yeah.
Three,
yeah. What was it like? What was it like always being selected?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It is. I keep saying that to everybody. It's incredible. It's an incredible occasion. It is the occasion.
And did you look at your Partick Thistle mates at any point when you'd been selected and say, look, I'm away for the summer, I'll see you guys later?
No, I always told them it didn't matter where I went, I would always bring them back a wee keyring.
Yeah.
Whatever
you know what? You really is a tripper, isn't he? He's the type of guy you'd want to. You just want him as a pal, wouldn't you?
Out his royalties for Ali's army.
Yeah. Here's one from Gregor, who I read out earlier. Says the point is, Peter, if he played for one of the old firm, you'd never criticise him like your mate Colley. Which is absolutely fantastic. Again, you know, I love it because there's so many people with a chip on their shoulder in Scottish football. Gregor, you need to go and get a grip of yourself. Have a wee glass of water and calm down. The joy of it all is we're all wanting Scotland to do well. They didn't. Some players, I don't think many people who get past March. John McGinn, great goal. You know, other than that, nothing to write home about.
Gordon kept us in the game.
Yeah, couple of good saves. Good point, Ruffy. Yep. On to the World Cup, and we're going to also be talking about Celtic and the Sydney Cup. We'll hear from Ian McCall talking about Partick Thistle the weekend, trying to stop that terrible run they're on at the moment, 6 consecutive losses. We'll also have the top 6 report card from the Scottish Premiership now that it's on lockdown until the World Cup is over. Of course, I'm really looking forward to it. You're going, Hugh, with your son, which I think is a great attitude to have because, quite simply, with you and Ali, and I know you go to German Bundesliga games, this is something that it lives with you forever. It's a great move.
The thing about it as well is, you know, we get a bit cynical in life and you're a bit relaxed in life about going places because I've been blessed. I've been to great sporting events and I've travelled the world and things like that. But I'm actually genuinely excited about this one. Peter.
Why not?
I've actually got the wee. I was just saying the boys and girls there that I've actually got my wee suitcase all packed and all that, and my wee
already?
packing. It's at the door and all this. So passport all out and you know, written my name and address in the back of my jacket. So if I get found somewhere, they can return me back to Bearsden. I'm really looking forward to for one reason. It's a World Cup with your son, which I think is a terrific thing. And we're both Brazil fans for different reasons. Right. And we're going to see Brazil in a World Cup. Did you ever see Brazil in the World Cup, Ruffy?
Unfortunately, once,
absolutely. in the tunnel. Then it was just a yellow blur. I think rightly so. You should be excited. The opening game is Qatar against Ecuador, and then on Monday these games are staggered over the day, and this is where it becomes really difficult, because if you're in with a workforce, you let them watch the game, and then when you get home, Ruffy, can you actually go through the entire month with your partner, male or female, giving it and watching the World Cup? Because on Monday it's England-Iran at 1 o'clock, which is well worth watching. Senegal against Netherlands at 4, and then I think the pick of them all is USA against Wales, 7 o'clock on the Monday night. Why are you laughing?
That is, you're right. How many did you get away with?
Yeah.
Would you have to pick one out of the 3, or do you have to pick 2 out of the 3? Or we get away with watching 3 out of 3?
Yeah. I think you have to be really in control or living on your own.
We're actually, because of the size of the World Cup in terms of geographics, we're actually going to, a few days, we're going to 2 games a day.
Is that right? Well, that's good, isn't it?
There's a couple of days where we get 2 games. I mean, the biggest distance, I always say this, but it's quite a good start. The biggest distance, or the longest distance between 2 stadiums, out of the 8 stadiums, is Murrayfield to Hampden. That's the longest distance you would have to travel between the stadiums.
Yeah.
So there's a metro system, so it should be we'll see, but it should be very doable to do a couple of games a day.
Well, that's fantastic. And are you the type of person you do buy the odd bit of memorabilia, so it'd be nice to. I wonder if they'll do programmes, Hugh.
Or if they do, I'll be definitely Ali and I will be wiring into it. Because we always,
that's good.
Ali's got he's got this man cave where he's got his chest.
Yes.
And the chest is full of stuff like scarves, caps, tickets from games.
That's good, isn't it?
Even a train ticket, for us going from Berlin to the Olympia Stadium for the Pokal Cup final. It's really clever stuff, because it is very evocative. When you see it, you go, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody else that does that kind of thing?
No,
neither do I. What's the point? Anyway, apart from that, I'm on your side. Don't listen to him. Over the last couple of days, Hugh, and we've been enjoying ourselves doing it. We've picked our
World Cup teams,
World Cup greatest 11.
Oh, aye.
Do you want to look at Ruffy's?
I'll have a look at Ruffy's before I slaughter yours. Okay?
Yes. He doesn't have it. Sorry, but nevertheless, can you remember yours, Ruffy?
Yeah.
Go on then. Give us.
I get mocked at mine. I made a mistake and left Pelly out.
Right. Okay. That's just Pelly.
Yeah.
I had Carlos fullback. I had.
Who's your goalie?
The
producer just said to me, "I've got Tam's and I've got mine." But he says I haven't got Ruffy's. That tells me everything about the producer today.
Baresi, I put Baresi in.
Who'd you put in goal though? Let's start with
Dino's off.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Dino's off in goal. Maldini. The other full-back, I'm leaning him into the
Chiellini at centre half.
I just remember him playing well against England. I thought he was good.
And he had Carlos at right back.
Right, fair enough.
Okay.
Carlos.
And then your midfield.
My midfield was Platini.
Yep, right. Which was good.
Zidane.
And
I can't remember who the other one
was. Was it Xavi?
Xavi.
Right.
Xavi.
Yeah.
And up front I should have had Messi, Maradona and Pelé.
Mm-hmm.
But you had...
I had Ronaldo in.
The Portuguese.
What one? The Portuguese Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Right.
I took him out.
Okay. Hugh, that was not bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, but...
What about Tam's? Have a look at Tam's, because Tam's 11 is an interesting one. Buffon, Cafu, Ramos, Baresi and Maldini, Xavi, Iniesta and Modric, Maradona, Messi and Ronaldo, the Brazilian. Are you having that side?
Yeah, very modern, isn't it, because of Tam's age?
Yes.
I mean, it's just terrific. I mean, I know it's your one. You've got your team would need 4 balls.
Yes.
Front
do you want me to tell you something, Hugh? The point is, it's an entertainment, and with dwindling audiences, I want the team to. I want the fans to come back.
I'm not arguing your back 4, but the first is just that the only thing your front is a bugle.
Tom's 2 wide people in the midfield are Maradona and Messi. I said yesterday, you can imagine the manager sitting. Hey, you pick somebody up. Pick a runner.
With all due respect, who needs to pick anybody up when you've got this team, Hugh? This is mine, which I think you can't argue. By the way, I get slaughtered on on social media last night for picking Danny McGrain. One guy said Danny McGrain, he wasn't even the best right back because he had to move to left back, whereas the minor technicality was he was so good that we had to fit somebody in the other side.
It was Sandy Jardine.
Sandy Jardine's well worthy of a right back position as well, but McGrain was absolutely top drawer as a right back in the 1974 World Cup. I've gone Beckenbauer. I was going to go Bobby Moore, but again I got slaughtered on social media for that. But Maldini...
Slaughtered for Beckenbauer?
No, for Bobby Moore. I thought Bobby Moore was a great player, but it was between him or Baresi. So I decided to go for Baresi. Maradona, Cruyff and Messi. Cruyff can play anywhere across there, pick the ball up. Van Basten, Pele and Müller. Can I just say something to you, Hugh? There's about 900 goals in that midfield and front line.
That's what I thought. I said this midfield just... you were talking about Steve Clark picking a team and trying to get people in. The only one I would slaughter you for is Schmeichel.
You're not having it?
No, I wouldn't have him in the team hotel, never mind the team.
Is that right? You don't like him?
No, I think he's good, but if you're talking about great goalkeepers, particularly in World Cup, I think Ruffy's got a good one because Zoff is a good World Cup goalkeeper.
Should I have gone for Sepp Maier?
You could go for Maier, but I think Gordon Banks would have been my goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Because not only did he win the World Cup, but his World Cup save is one of the greatest saves of all time.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I like Schmeichel because of the Man United Champions League days and Denmark '92.
But it's, it's so difficult. I mean,
I'll take Schmeichel on the chin, but the others, by the way, I don't care about him. If Maradona, Cruyff, Pele have got the ball, Van Basten and Muller's in the box, and by the way, Muller's not picking up either. He's just sitting in the penalty box.
I mean, he doesn't have to be away for 6-yard line.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but
I was looking at it though, and we're talking about Ali, my son, and the other boy Andy, who's going away to the World Cup. These things produce great arguments, these teams, and they were looking at it this morning, we were interacting, and it was really interesting because, they were getting into, like Peter's picked the best players and all that, but can we pick a team that means we've got to draw players?
Yes.
So we're getting right into it, and Andy was saying, he says, Close must get into the argument because he's very close with that. And I said, the only reason he gets into the argument, because he played in 4 World Cups and he scored more World Cup goals than anybody. So the only reason he gets in the argument is if he turns up the party with a bag of cans. I mean, he's not getting into the team any other way.
The only way he's getting in is if he brought the ball.
And even then.
Yeah, I must admit though, it's a great argument, and the generational thing, which was why it was great having Tam here talking about the players that he wanted in it. And realistically, a lot of people, even the younger generation now, might look and think to themselves, nobody really talks about the real Ronaldo the way he should be discussed.
Did you see the documentary?
No, I'm going to watch it.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, and I was lucky enough to sit down with him and chat with him, he was... They called him the phenomenon, but he would have been one of the all-time greats had he not had that knee injury, Hugh. And even then, after he came back, he still managed to move to Real Madrid, but he was a fraction of the player.
But I still think he's one of the all-time greats. I think if you put a number in, if you talk about the old-fashioned 9, a number 9. You've got to put Müller in there, I know Müller played with different numbers, but if you talk about an old 9, you would have to put Müller in there because that's what he was. But Ronaldo would have to be in there. I mean, Ronaldo's one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, so you watch the documentary, it's daft stuff.
Yeah,
it's not as getting the ball and running like as if it's as if you're playing PlayStation.
Pierre touched on it briefly yesterday. I mean, we went Pele's as far as we went back.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more into going back further. Would you have had Di Stefano and Puskas?
Well, that's another argument. I mean, that's what I had them in the text this morning about, where people are saying, like, if you're talking about, if you're just playing 3 up front, like, just say that you're going to, I know you've went juggle.
Yeah.
But say you're playing a normal team, 3 up front. Say your midfield was Platini, Zidane, Xavi, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Charlton even.
Yeah, I did mention Charlton.
You're playing 3 up front. Pele, Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo 1, Ronaldo 2, Müller. There's 6 right off the Cruyff 7. I mean,
I was a bit worried.
I
was a bit worried about my team talk at the start. By the way, because
keep it tight for the first 20.
There was an argument over who's taking centre.
Imagine Puskas being in the dressing room. Put that cigarette out.
Yeah. Well, can I just say something to you? And this is my Cruyff. Can I just say this is the gods of shooting it? I have told Ruffy this story before, but it just means everything. And I'm lucky enough, you know what we're like. We love memorabilia in here. And by the way, we're giving away a fantastic little package, Ruffy, of memorabilia with some brilliant World Cup shirts and some other little goodies that I'm going to give away. And for the benefit of a Hugh Scott who usually watches, I've found the Eintracht Frankfurt Rangers programme, Ruffy.
Oh.
So we've now got the Rangers top and the programme. We'll give that away as well. But when the Champions League final was at Hampden in 2002, Hugh, I was sent out by STV to interview all the dignitaries that were staying at the Hilton. And as I walked in, everybody was scurrying about, reporters everywhere. They were all running about. And there was just an old man sitting in a seat with these giant glasses on. And he was just sitting there. Nobody was bothering with him. Nobody knew who he was. They were all walking about trying to get this, that and the other. And I looked and I thought, oh, hang on a minute here. I've got my Champions League programme and the Champions League book from UEFA, and I just walked up and I tapped him, and obviously I didn't know if he spoke any English, and I said, could you please sign this? And he looked at me and he just gave me one of those knowing smiles, and he just got his pen out and went, Ferenc Puskas. Oh. And I just went like that, thank you very much, shook his hand, boom, and away I went, and it was the best moment of that whole Champions League 2002, Ruffy, to actually sit there and see him sitting there, and when he signed it, and I thought, oh, magnificent.
He managed a team to get to the Champions League final. Narrowly beaten as well, a Greek team getting to the Champions League final.
Yep, it's good going.
What a man Puskas was. A bit of a rascal as well.
Well, a rascal as well, especially when he came to Glasgow, but nevertheless, he's still a brilliant player. And apparently a lot of people, thanks to David Gemmell, who knows his stuff, he says, Peter, we know all about the generations, but your team wins hands down. David, thank you for that. My team wins 9-8 in a close game with 5 minutes additional extra time. And thank you to Ian Docherty, who says Garrincha is second to Pelé in Brazil.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you know something, I read his biography, and Noah Andrew Downey has written a tremendous book about Socrates, Dr. Socrates, and he was talking to me about it. He says, in some parts of Brazil, Garrincha is favoured over Pelé, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Garrincha was some player.
Isn't it great when somebody mentions a name and you can go, oh, he scored against me.
Yes, absolutely. To be fair, Ruffy, there's a lot of people that are on that list.
It's on the World Cup.
By the way, I mean, you know the other thing about it, which is absolutely amazing, is the fact that we've mentioned 5 or 6 players, and it's not a good thing for the present day footballer who would scoff at it, but these players all smoked like chimneys.
I know.
Cruyff, Socrates. The only thing about Socrates is he had an argument with the manger of Brazil, because he demanded to have sex before the game as well, which...
Lee Gordon Strachan's story is a good one with Socrates. After we played Brazil in Seville, Gordon and Socrates were called for the
drug testing.
Yeah.
And obviously Gordon went in and he was totally dehydrated. He just couldn't produce what you have to put in the bottle to pass the test. So he says he sat there for about half an hour, still couldn't do anything, and the bold Socrates walked in with a cigarette and a can of lager. He just says, where's the bottle?
Who's to argue with him? He was absolutely fantastic.
And then you're talking about the greatest teams of all time. I mean, think all the Brazilian midfielders, though I've not talked about Gerson, Socrates, Dunga, Zico, Falcao, Cerezo.
Yeah, brilliant players, I know. It's still the most painful time ever looking back at that 82 World Cup.
Did you still get
I just get a pain, and the pain always is Paolo Rossi. Because he get free Italian shoes for the rest of his life for scoring in those games.
It was a hat-trick he got as well.
Yeah, hat-trick he got. It was make you sick. I was absolutely gutted. Thanks to so many of you who have mentioned your favourite players, and of course all your favourite teams as well, which is really, really appreciated. The one thing we've got a great competition coming up, and Kerry's going to tell you about it coming up on Friday and on to Monday. We're going to give somebody that goodie bag if they can give us the World Cup. It's a triple whammy question. It's a hat-trick question, which is, if you can give us the World Cup winner, it's a tough one, the top goal scorer, and who's going to be player of the tournament in a triple whammy, and it's well worth it for the prize, to be honest with you, Hugh. But
it's a good question.
It's a good one, isn't it? I mean, if you could nail that, I mean, along the way, it would be unbelievable. Who do you think is going to win the World Cup?
Brazil.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all in on them, but I just think I looked at their squad. Their squad's really strong.
Who's going to stop them then? That's probably a better question if you think they're odds on, because the bookies have them at 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the usual suspects could stop them. I mean, I think Argentina, obviously, they'll be second favourites. They're strong. They've got Messi. I think I don't think Germany. There's famous last words. I don't think Germany are usually there and thereabouts. I don't think they've got a strong outfit this year. I mean, they're taking a 17-year-old striker with them.
Yeah, France
are very powerful. And then you've got to look at, is this a World Cup, Peter, where, you know, a dark horse comes through, like a Denmark comes through?
Yeah.
Or a lot of the African and Arab countries are making very powerful noises. And I was over at the Arab Cup a year ago in a moment. And Morocco didn't have their strongest team. Morocco looked really good, and so did Tunisia. And people will laugh at you that, but they'll be very acclimatised to where they are.
Somebody's got to come out of the whole group and maybe surprise everyone. You know, maybe I mean, Cameroon surprised everybody in 1990. But whether there's another African country that can maybe do that, who knows? Top goal scorers, interesting. Player of the tournament. I mean, the top goal scorer, they've got Harry Kane at 7-1, Mbappe 8-1, Vinicius Junior at 12-1, Messi's at 12-1 as well.
I was impressed with Junior.
No.
You know, when we saw him,
I thought he was good.
He looked a bit special.
Yeah, and the player of the tournament, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, they're all in there. You can get Kevin De Bruyne at 14-1, Vinicius Junior 16-1, Ruffy. So there you are. And there's lots of players that I think down through the years that you can mention, Hugh, that have been, you know, the top goal scorers at particular tournaments. It's better to Just Fontaine scored 13 goals.
Right, the Frenchman, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, of the names that we were talking about, Eusebio, Müller. Do you remember the guy in 74, Gregor Lato?
Yeah, the Polish guy. I was going to mention him because sometimes he talks very about that to a truth that sometimes teams come through. I think Portugal got towards the semi-finals even then, and it was Lato and Gadosha up front. They were the quick wingers.
Yeah, Schmalarek, Kazimir Denia.
Oh, Denia.
What a team that was, by the way.
And sometimes you'll get a team that just hits on the day. I mean, a lot of these teams as well, the Qatar team's interesting. I'm not suggesting they'll win it or anything like that, but they've been training together for an awful long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, it'll be interesting to see. Harry Kane was the top scorer at the last World Cup, Ruffy, but whether he can replicate that, who knows?
Am I right in saying that
no, you're not.
Neymar is 2 goals away from breaking Pele's record at World Cups?
It must be about that, yeah.
He would be in there, wouldn't he?
99 and 97 or something.
Yeah, okay, we'll find that out for you, Ruffy. As ever, Ruffy always likes to throw something in that he doesn't know the answer to, and we'll find out for him. Sydney Super Cup, if we were disenfranchised with what was happening with Scotland, Celtic fans certainly not. Some of them might have been up in the wee small hours of the morning thinking Sydney FC, who won it 2-1, Ange Postecoglou, all sorts of people celebrating him down there. In the end, they lost it. Kyogo got a fortunate goal, but I think Celtic are winning a lot of fans down in Australia.
Yeah, but one of the fans is nobody winning is Ange. Apparently was much aggrieved by the whole performance. Wasn't having it at all. Quite angry about it all because he was asked about jet lag and that, and brushed that off with references to not being a violin player.
Yeah.
I think the story that's evolving more and more with Celtic and Postecoglou is how strong Postecoglou is in that dressing room, and how you used to use the word respected, but even feared there, sitting there.
And as I mentioned to you, he's no intention of leaving short term.
I wouldn't have thought so. And the thing about him as well is it would have to be something really good to take away. He's got a limited time span like all of us have, and he'll want to do big things in football. But he knows football history. He knows where he can be going and where he could go. And I think Celtic is a perfect place for him at the moment.
Well, as far as Celtic are concerned, they form part of that top half of the Scottish Premiership. Yesterday we did the bottom half report card, and today Kerry looks at the top 6 with the marks.
As we break for 5 weeks for the World Cup, let's have a look at how your team is doing in the Scottish Premiership. Now let's have a look at the top 6, starting in 6th position, St Johnstone, who have been graded a B. A first home win against Rangers in over a decade was the standout performance and a promising start for the season, which sees them enter the break in the top half. Nicky Clark has been revelation for Callum Davidson following his summer move from Dundee United, which has only contributed to the resurgence of Stevie May. Next up, Hearts, who have been given a C. After cruising to 3rd last season, Hearts have lost as many as they've won so far this campaign. This is no small part due to their first European group stage adventure since 2005, which has left Robbie Nielsen's squad in desperate need of a World Cup break. Alex Cochrane has become a fan's favourite, whilst Lawrence Shankland is quietly making a charge towards the league's golden boot. In 4th, Livingston with a B+. Despite being many people's surprise package, it should come as no surprise that David Martindale continues to work miracles with the smallest budget in the league, highlighted by the shrewd additions of Shamal George and Stephen Kelly. They've had mixed results, but the Tony Macaroni continued to be a dreaded destination for most. And in 3rd, Aberdeen with a B-. Currently in 3rd place, Jim Goodwin's Aberdeen side started their season off with 4 wins in the Scottish League Cup, but had various results in the league. Striker Bojan Majowski is now joint top goal scorer in the league with 11 goals under his belt. Up front, alongside Louis Duke Lopez, the pair have been a handful for their opponents as they forge a formidable partnership. And in 2nd, Rangers, who have been given a C+. Rangers started their league campaign in the midst of qualifying for the Champions League for the first time in 12 years, being drawn in potentially one of the hardest groups in the competition alongside Napoli, Liverpool and Ajax. After facing multiple defeats, pivotal players picked up injuries and confidence took a dip. Giovanni van Bronckhorst's men still sit 2nd in the league, but there is mounting pressure on the Dutchman after a string of poor results. And at the top of the table, Celtic, who have been given an A-. Who are 9 points clear at the top of the table, the Hoops started their league campaign with 6 straight wins before heading into a challenging Champions League campaign, where they failed to progress past the group stage, dropping points just once so far this season against St Mirren and Paisley. And Postecoglou's side picked up 8 straight wins coming into the break as they pulled away from the chasing pack. We would love to hear your opinion on how your team is doing so far this season.
Oh, that's an interesting one from Kerry. Could we disagree with anything there?
Very interesting, and the only one I would disagree with is Rangers. I would downgrade them. I think it's been, if C's average, I would C- Rangers.
Yeah.
I think it's been less than average for Rangers. But I think the rest of the observations bang on. You know, I think St Johnstone and Kerry picking out Nicky Clark and Stevie May. That was a big move, you know, for Callum to go 2 up top when you're under pressure. And she's right, that's changed it. Majowski, as she pointed out as well, Aberdeen are struggling to hold on to him already.
Yeah.
You know? But Rangers, I would say, and people say that's harsh because they've only dropped, you know, X number of points. But I think if you look at Rangers, particularly of late with the St Mirren and St Johnstone results, I would go C-.
Yeah, interesting one, Ruffy, because the big question still is about the decision now to stick with Gio. I didn't think they were going to sack him if they didn't sack him right after the St Mirren game. I thought it would have been ludicrous to wait 3 or 4 days. If he's not part of the plans, then you have to move swiftly to try and get someone in to freshen it up. But they're deciding to stick with him to see if he can turn things around when players are coming back.
Well, I think they've decided to stick with him at the moment. You know, I think there's a long way to go yet before we go back in there. As we spoke the other day, I still think there'll be discussions moving on. People will be throwing their tuppence worth in. They'll be having meetings and everybody will have a say, and I'm sure a lot of them won't agree with each other. So I think you still have to keep your eye on this, you know, because obviously when you're in this kind of situation, we've discussed it before, you have to see who's available and who's quickly available, and that might hold you back a wee bit. So I would still keep my eye on it. I don't think it's done and dusted.
No, I think there's definitely a short list, Hugh. But right now, you know, when you look at the situation with the dilemma over whether they sell Morelos and Kent to try and get some money in January, what money do they have at their disposal? Do they have the confidence to give it to Giovanni van Bronckhorst? And I think the general feeling among many of the pundits is that the league's over.
Yeah, I'm making some inquiries in this and some calls, and the sort of unanimous kind of reaction from people to know anything that what goes on inside the board is that the board want to remain loyal to Gio. They believe that him getting, despite the results in the Champions League, Van Bronckhorst getting them into the Champions League was a great achievement. He's withstood losing good players in doing so. And I think there's an element of loyalty there. We know all this can change on the back of pressure and results, but the mood at the moment seems to be, no, we'll stick by him. And I think it's very reminiscent of Celtic with Neil Lennon, where the general reaction from pundits and supporters was far ahead of the reaction from Celtic board.
Yeah. Sometimes you've got that little bit of credit in the bank, and sometimes a board can be proved to be correct if they do stick by their manager. Whether that's the case with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, only time will tell. So that's the report card, top and bottom. You might agree with it, you might disagree with it, but as far as we're concerned, puts it out there, gets us all talking. Give us your thoughts on it as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, because coming up with the World Cup, we're going to be giving away lots of prizes as we promised, and we've got lots of good things that I think will be maybe pre-Christmas presents for more than a few of you. In the Championship, equally so, lots of fans like to ask questions about managers, whether they can survive on poor runs. Well, today, Partick Thistle manager Ian McCall was out there promoting Thistle's Purple Thistle Day, which takes place at Firhill this Saturday ahead of the game against Arbroath, and it's to raise funds for awareness of Pancreatic Cancer Action Scotland, which is a worthy cause. Our reporter Adam Binney was out there to talk to the Partick Thistle manager, because 6 consecutive losses, they've dropped out of that top 4, and he's under a wee bit of pressure.
Thanks, Peter. I'm outside of Firhill Stadium. It has been a dreadful run out of form for Partick Thistle as of late. They've lost 7 of their last 8 matches. They've lost the last 6 consecutively, 5 of those coming in the league. If you look 4 weeks ago, they were actually in a brilliant position, top of the league, into the quarter-finals of the League Cup, but it all looks grim now, and there has been some pressure mounting on manager Ian McCall. I had the opportunity to speak to the manager at this afternoon's press conference, and he's still convinced that he's the right man to take this club forward.
Well, listen, I'm not the best manager, I'm not the worst, but I've done it nearly 900 games at full-time level. That suggests to me that I'm no shite at the job.
We also spoke to Partick Thistle defender Harry Milne, who was telling us just how tough these last few weeks have been, with a multitude of first-team core players out with injuries and suspensions.
I wouldn't want to single anyone out, but the 3 I mentioned before, obviously big characters in the team, and it's never like, I think they'd probably be captain, vice-captain and vice-vice-captain if you were to pick them on a Saturday, so obviously that's never good. But we've also had sending offs here and there, and just niggly injuries. Tiff, he's been missing. On his day, he can spark a game into life. So I think, like I said before, with our squad being so strong, I think if anyone's missing, you miss their qualities, because everyone's got something to give. But no, I wouldn't single anyone out, no.
Well, can Partick Thistle reverse their misfortune as of late? Their only 2 clean sheets, in fact, this season have came against Saturday's opponents, Arbroath. It's a match that everyone is talking about in the Scottish Championship, so don't miss any of the action. I'll be here at Firhill Stadium on Saturday afternoon bringing you live updates. But for now, it's back to you in the studio, Peter.
Yeah, well done to Adam out there. You got to love Collie. He's just got a rich vocabulary to enlighten everybody of not only how many games he's been in charge, but he's given us a real insight into whether he's good or bad.
I thought it was quite robust statement, a robust statement. I think we talk about managers. I think he's another one with credit in the bank. He got Thistle up last year. The spiral has been, quite dramatic, and it's one of these awful things as well. Ruff will know more about this than me, but when lack of confidence breeds a lack of confidence, it just goes on and on. I actually think they're winning Saturday.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, because Arbroath are not in a good place.
I think Arbroath are in a good pace. I think Thistle can steady, and I was talking to a guy. I haven't seen Thistle this season, I don't think, but I was talking to somebody who'd covered the Thistle Dundee match, where Thistle threw away a 2-goal lead and got a player sent off, and he thought, Thistle will be fine.
Yeah. Ruffy, the one saving grace, as we were talking about there, is when you look at the form of Arbroath, it's 1 win and 5 for them, 2 losses, 2 draws.
Yeah, but I think they're a wee bit better than what they were a couple of months ago.
I just trying to save yourself now, eh?
No, Dick was struggling for a couple of results, but I think anybody that's seen Arbroath are stubborn. They don't score many goals, but they don't lose many goals, so you've got to fight with them all the way, and it was, I'm listening, you've heard me, and obviously the report there, when we're minus big players, and it doesn't matter who you are, what team you're in, but obviously apart from Celtic, when they're minus 6 players, they've got another 6 to come in. When our 6 first team players are available, we're top of the league. It's there for everybody to see. When our 6 players aren't there, we're not that good. So the quicker we get them back, the better. I do believe there's maybe 50% of them going to come back at the weekend. So it is all about confidence, but you can't be minus your top goal scorer and your best defender and probably the most exciting player in the league and expect to be doing as well as what you're doing. So no, it's just a matter of hanging on in there and hopefully things turn.
The good thing as well, if it's not a league or anybody's running away with it either.
No, and everybody, and I don't care who it is, every team in that league will get beat 4 or 5-0, whether it's the top team or the bottom team. That's the way it is.
Yeah. And then, did you notice the change in his tone of voice when he became all defensive about Thistle and kind of a boardroom member, I
thought it was an age to him. I never thought I'd say that about
No, absolutely not.
Never thought I'd say it.
The 10 years that you and I have experienced them, this is a change. Because
I don't like nasty Ruffy either.
No, absolutely. I like opinionated Ruffy. Remember that third year? I wish we were back there, do you? Anyway, you can give us your thoughts on the Championship, because there's a few tidy games. There's something I want to mention that I didn't mention yesterday. I think it's only right and proper we get Hugh's thoughts and Ruffy's thoughts on it, but it's Cove Rangers against Greenock Morton, Dundee against Hamilton Accies, Inverness Ayr, Thistle against Arbroath, and Raith Rovers take on Queen's Park, which should be a really tidy game as well. Yesterday, probably spotted the headlines, Jim McInally decided enough was enough up there at Peterhead. I thought Jim did a wonderful job up there. Sometimes if you get a really good board with a great chairman, life can be great. And Jim, I know, wanted the best for Peterhead. And when it didn't quite work out for him, he offered his resignation on a couple of occasions. That's the integrity of the man. And I love Jim. I think he's a great lad, and I've been pals with him for a long, long time. He was part of a great Dundee United side. Sometimes you just think, I've tried everything. I've taken it as far as I can.
Yeah, I think it's a great summation. I mean, he's a very honourable man, full of integrity, and the chairman was trying to shove his resignation back down the front of his jumper.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't want. I mean, it's a club which is managed by really good people. By managed, I mean the committee, the way the club's run. They know what they're in the game for. They know the expectations of the club. And he was an absolute perfect fit. He was an absolute perfect fit and had great success with the club over the years. But the word legend is maybe overused in Scottish football, but Jim McInally is a sort of, in football terms, a son of Jim McLean and Brian Clough. Played for them both. Played for them both. He's also been a coach at Celtic, a player at Celtic briefly before he went on to make a great career for himself. And that whole period at Peterhead as well, that long-standing period. Yeah, and a terrific guy, as you say, a terrific guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish him well, whatever he does.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons that he has left is he wants to try and be a referee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How's that right, does he?
Because he thinks so much of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, man. I'd take Jim McInally into the trenches.
When he was at Queen's Park, he was at, and he was banned for like what's that, it was double-figure games he was banned for.
You're not thinking about Dave Bowman?
Oh, Bowman was as well, but
Yeah.
no, Jim got a huge ban at one time as well.
I thought he was a great player, but also I think, when you look at people and you get a no-nonsense approach, and sometimes you get into a sticky wicket because Jim wasn't slow at offering his opinion on bad referees or certain things that happen in matches. He was a journalist's dream for a quote, but he was also a thoroughly decent guy, and I think he's got something to offer football. I'll tell you one thing, and again, I cannot for the life of me work it out, how Dundee United have not actually said, see Jim McInally sitting behind Liam Fox at Tannadice. That would be worth its weight in gold. Jim McInally advising Liam Fox, look son, you're young, this is what you got to look out for, this is the type of player you need. It would be invaluable. I don't know why it doesn't happen.
Probably because it's too commonsensical.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we wish him well. The one thing I would say about Jim, he's got just a whole hundreds of great stories about Cloughie, but the one that I always loved him telling me, Ruffy, was he signed for Nottingham Forest and they were going down to a hotel to stay to get ready for the game against Liverpool at Anfield, and this is him just signed. And the physio phones him and says, look, all the boys are down in the bar in the hotel, the gaffer says you to come down. This is about 9 o'clock, so you know where this is going with Ruffy, with Cloughie. And the next minute he comes down and Cloughie says to him, and I'm not going to do the Brian Clough accent, he says, what you having to drink? And he said, I'll have a Coke, boss. And he said, listen, you'll have a lager like the rest of the team. He says, and the whole team had a right skullful and then went out at Anfield and got a 0-0. He said, you turn up some days and the training was, we'll go a walk along the Trent, have a wee chat with each other, and then boom, away you go.
Yep.
I mean, just the psychology of the man was unbelievable. Yeah. But of course, if you've got great players, it always helps when you go out on a Saturday and they can produce a wee bit of magic. And I always think about John Robertson. Ronaldo, Hugh, we've had our say on it. It's the next night tonight on the Revelations. Ronaldo's place in football history, I think, will be set once everybody forgets about this little passage. It's not great, is it, the way he's come out and battered them, but he's made a few pertinent points that I think people should look at.
Yeah, he absolutely has, of course. He's talking about the decline of Manchester United, but he's not doing that for... he's not doing that to revitalise Manchester United. He's doing that as a part of his... to rehabilitate himself or to explain himself. I think he's working his ticket. I'm sure he is. Yeah. I'm sure he's working his ticket and he wasn't sacked. And I think he will be sacked and he'll go to another club in the new year, and that's it. Strange things to me was that at the summer, and we said it in here at the time, the summer, I would get rid of him in the summer because he wanted to go in the summer. Yeah. The Manchester keeps, hang on to it. And I'm going, these guys, you don't hang on to these guys. They cause problems for you if you hang on to them. That's a fact of football now. Get rid of them, save your £2 million a month or £2.5 million a month and get somebody else. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing he did, because what I loved about Ronaldo in so many ways was that he got teams over the line. He would drag a team over the line, whether it be Portugal. Argue with
his first year at Man United there.
He would do that, and he would be, in the way that these guys can be, he could be a team player, he could galvanise a team and things like that. And that sight of him walking down the tunnel.
It's poor.
I can't go. See, when you refuse to go on as a sub and you walk down the tunnel, I go, nah, I'm not having that.
Yeah,
the football fan in you just rebels at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a lot of things that he got wrong. But for me, I think, okay, it's a sad way that it's going to end at Manchester United. But I think as time goes on and he eventually hangs up his boots, Ruffy, whether he's got something in the background that he knows is going to happen, he's going to get a move somewhere else. I think when people look back on his career, he's going to be one of the greats because the stats tell you he's a great.
Yeah, and you just have to look at the documentary that will come out about his football, and there's not one blemish at all. He's won everything with every club that he's went to and the national side. And in fact, I would go as far as to say he's won everything for the national side.
Yeah.
Anytime he's went into a tournament, he's the one that's won it, and I wouldn't criticise him at all. I was listening to Gary Neville today. I thought he was very honest, Gary Neville. He talked Ronaldo up in every degree, as a person, as a player and everything, but he had an opinion that he isn't the player he was, and he has to realise that and behave accordingly. And that was the point he was making.
Well, I think behave accordingly is the more pertinent line there, because, of course, we all know he wasn't the player he was, but he still scored 28 goals last season.
Absolutely.
And he still saved Man United from the humiliation and embarrassment of being in the bottom end of the table.
Exactly.
Solskjaer would have been sacked far earlier if it wasn't for Ronaldo. But of course, Ronaldo highlighted that some people didn't want him there in the first place. Well, when the heat was on and there was a potential he was going to Man City, Ronaldo revealed that it was the great manager himself, Sir Alex, who said, that just can't happen.
He said to me that it's impossible for you to come to Manchester City. And I say, okay, boss. So I took the decisions, and I repeat with I was with conscience that it was a good decision.
Well, Sir Alex stepped in there, and the rest, as they say, is history. You can see the rest of the second part of that interview on Talk TV tonight with Piers Morgan. But certainly, there's been a few grenades thrown out there, and it's a sad way to end his career at United.
It is, and especially when he would be revered quite rightly by United fans, and the way he went about his move first time round, where he gave United another year where he could have left, and gave them another title, and then left. So he was rightly, there was great reverence and great respect for him, and I think this has tarnished it, because at heart we're all football fans, we're pundits, we're this and that, and as again I go back to, I know that human beings can be unhappy in their places of work and all that, but there's a way to do it, and if you walk down a tunnel like that, you're disrespecting everybody in the organisation, from the fans to the dinner ladies. You don't do that, Cristiano.
But what about just to finish, Hugh, on that? What about year 5 when Ruffy was causing all sorts of hassle here, and he wanted away, and we were thinking, we had a meeting, we thought to ourselves, well, we just let him go,
and we did, and he still turns up out of it.
Can't
get him.
It's hard to believe.
We've changed the locks.
Yeah.
We've changed studios. We've moved.
He still finds it because Maggie tells him where to go. By the way, it's hard to believe. I don't know if you're aware of this, but as we talk about football, and thanks to so many of you who've offered. By the way, a lot of people, and I have to say, well done to the reason why I love the people who watch the show on a regular basis is because, quite simply, they mention so many different players. Some of us haven't mentioned Rivellino. Jarzinho
scored in every game in the 1970 Cup.
These are great players.
Every game he scored in it.
Yeah.
And the way it is, as you know, that all of the viewers are, a big constituency of the viewers are much more intelligent than us. That's the thing. I was at Auchinleck, Talbot, Darvel, and there was a mass of Peter and Ruffy viewers in there giving me their views about it. And so I'll name check one that I can remember, James Glasgow, who was very complimentary about it, but the views from the Auchinleck club, which you'll know very well, Ruffy.
Yeah, certainly do.
Great banter and crack about Scottish football.
Yeah,
loved it.
Absolutely. We love all the people who like the show. We love all the people who maybe don't like us, but they still watch the show. We embrace it all. It is, of course, uncensored, and not only that, unbiased and unmatched, because 5 days a week we're talking about Scottish football, English football, European, and in this week of all weeks, getting ready for the World Cup, we've got some great prizes. The answer to our quiz question is, it's a good one actually. Which country has the oldest player in their World Cup squad? Do you want to have a go at the country, Ruffy?
I'll go Morocco.
I'll go Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, you can't let the under-16 World Cup final go, can you? Anyway, the answer is Mexico, Alfredo Talavera, who's 40, which is not unusual because Roger Milla for Cameroon was 40, and they asked him if he'd come back and play, and he was a joy.
Zoff, huh?
Zoff was 40 as well, yeah, absolutely. So Dino Zoff was a fantastic player, and of course you loved him, Ruffy. You've got him in your World 11.
Yeah, he was one of just my age group, and obviously the World Cups, and he always looked great. He always looked suave, and he looked always under control.
In the group chat this morning, Peter, about this thing, it's your team sparked some group chat with Ali and Andy this morning. We went for the goalkeeper Buffon solely on the Italian national anthem. We said, well, Buffon would be our team because we would sing the national anthem. Did you ever see Buffon singing the Italian national
anthem? Big gusto? Wow, I can't remember that. Yeah.
YouTube it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like people who give it great gusto. It's the ones who stand there and you think, does he know the words? Is he patriotic? Anyway, thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to those who have accused me of being slightly biased towards the show. Yes, I can take that, but other than that, anything else, Stephen McCulloch, I can take it on the chin, no problem. Thanks to everyone who's hit the subscribe button. Do that if you can. If you download the app, you can watch the show live on your phone, and you can get all the breaking stories. Don't forget the website as well, and across all our social media channels we get lots of great coverage, so thank you to each and every one of you. I'm going to just nip along to see you, Archie McPherson's launching a book at Hampden tonight, and I'm going to go along there and hear you interview him, which is great.
Touching Greatness, terrific book for anybody. Tickets are free. Go on out in Brentbright and come along to Hampden, listen to Archie tonight. He'll be terrific. Yeah,
really looking forward to it, Hugh. Looking forward to you asking him the questions on a good book, Touching Greatness. If you get a chance, a wee Christmas stocking filler, I'm sure Archie would be delighted if you bought that book. From Ruffy, from Hugh, and from myself, Peter, thanks to you for watching.